Alright, we got all good with the bad boys Pistons.
They're the greatest villains in NBA history. They revolutionized how
All I know is that they were a menace to society.
Playoffs 3 times. They had the best rebounder in NBA history, the dirtiest player in NBA history.
What?
And the leader was one of the most cunning point guards ever. But were they as evil as their nickname suggested? And how good were the bad boy Pistons actually?
God damn, see, they're fighting already, bro.
Lost 66 games, the worst record in franchise history. And in 1981, they followed it with another 60-loss season. The Pistons had the worst attendance in the NBA, with an average of 5,000 spectators. So their Silverdome Stadium, with a capacity of 82,000, felt like a ghost town.
Holy
the worst
shit.
part was that no player wanted to play for the Pistons, and nobody wanted to live in crime-infested Detroit.
Yeah,
Yet,
for sure.
there was hope on the horizon. Because in the 1981 draft, the Pistons had the second pick, and they wanted to draft Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah was a college superstar who had just won an NCAA title with the Hoosiers under the great Bobby Knight. But there was a problem. Isaiah wanted to get drafted by his hometown Bulls. He didn't want to live in Detroit and was doing everything in his power to sabotage his pre-draft interview.
The things he taught me
Bro.
while I was there, the first thing was you.
But where the Dallas Mavericks, who had the number 1 pick, got bamboozled by Thomas and his deceiving tactics, the Pistons GM, Jack McCluskey, saw right through Isaiah's BS.
And Jack McCloskey was asking me all these questions, and I was intentionally
6'1".
Nigga tried to sabotage himself to play with another team. The coach said, fuck you, bro. You with us,
McCluskey
gang.
became the Pistons general manager in 1979. And because of his ability to judge talent and lots of trades, he soon got nicknamed Trader Jack. McCluskey said that Isaiah would end up with the Pistons no matter how he behaved in the interview, because Jack sensed something in the young Isaiah, and he was instantly proven right.
Comes in the lane. Got it. Isaiah to the hoop. Hey, hits
I heard about him, but the only thing I heard about him is that he ate Michael Jordan, bro.
In Thomas's rookie season, the Pistons improved tremendously, winning 18 more games than the year before. And when they played against Cleveland, McCluskey noticed that their center played harder than anyone and fought until the
And he
last
won
second,
against Michael
even though it
Jordan
was a
literally
blowout game.
years and years and years.
Cleveland, and I kept looking at this big guy, this Lambeer. They were 20 down, and he still competed the entire game.
Technical foul has been called on Bill Laimbeer.
I said, God, I got to get this guy.
Impressed by this toughness and fighting spirit, Jack traded for that center at the very next trade deadline. And that's how Detroit got Bill Laimbeer.
Good with Johnson, and Laimbeer just fired at Jordan. Michael doesn't like it.
Soon, Thomas and Laimbeer became the heart and soul of the Pistons.
Nigga,
Both of
Pistons,
them
bro.
made the All-Star team in 1983, their first full season together. However, Detroit missed the playoffs for the 6th consecutive year, after which McCluskey fired Scottie Robinson and appointed the legendary Chuck Daly as the new Pistons head coach.
As Bill Greifel said, the basketball is in your hands.
In 1984, Daly's first season, Detroit had the number 1 offense in the NBA and the best attendance in the league with 16,000 fans on average. It was a complete 180 from just 3 years before. But most importantly, the Pistons had a winning season and made the playoffs.
And the Pistons celebrate at the Meadowlands. 1, 2, 3.
However, in the first round, Detroit got torpedoed by Bernard King, who averaged 42 points in 5 games.
What's
It was
this?
only the 4th time in NBA history that a player averaged 40-plus points
What
in a
the
playoff
hell?
series.
What the hell is
in
this?
1985, the Pistons went one step further, finally winning their first playoff series after 9 years. But they would get immediately put down by the Celtics.
But they get better every year, though. That's the thing.
Every time Bird touched the ball, we were scared. My mother-in-law nicknamed his jump shot Silent Death.
And then, in the
Damn,
1985
that's tough.
offseason, Trader Jack drafted shooting guard Joe Dumars with the 18th pick.
The Detroit Pistons select Joe Dumars.
And one day later, he traded for Rick Mahorn, a master screen setter and one of the toughest players in the NBA.
Oh my God.
Damn.
He's got some screen. He's flat on the point.
Nigga lost his mind.
That I guess that My intensity level will be so high.
This ain't
that I
football,
wanna
baby.
go, I just want to keep going and keep going.
But
Whoa.
instead of the expected breakthrough, the 1986 season brought disappointment and a loss in the first round of the playoffs by the Atlanta Hawks. However, while most franchises would make drastic changes in personnel or fire the coach, Jack McCluskey had faith in Daly and the core of his team, feeling that they only needed a bit more help. And then, Jack brilliantly drafted two extremely important pieces for the Pistons,
Rodman.
John Sally and Dennis Rodman. Rodman was 25 years old, had a troubled past, and was working as an airport janitor just a few years before he became an NBA player. But the Pistons believed in him because of the unbelievable energy he played with, something that perfectly suited the hard-nosed fighting spirit of Thomas, Mahorn, and Lambeer. Then McCluskey also
Bro.
traded for Adrian Dantley.
I ain't gonna lie, but the NBA should be doing shit like this in 2025 as well. Because do you even know how many good talent are out there on the streets? I don't know, playing at the park or something like that, but you give them a chance, they might actually become the greatest player of all time. I'm telling you, bro, I'm telling you, bro, it's possible.
Champion, and the Pistons finally became a true contender. Detroit steamrolled through the first two rounds of the playoffs, securing a clash with their nemesis, the Boston Celtics. After 4 games, the series was tied, and in Game 5, it looked like the Pistons would win as they held a 1-point lead with 5 seconds left.
Baseline. Nobody home. Rodman the block. Out of bounds. He's got it to Twink up with 5 seconds to go.
Damn.
Now the play's over. We're celebrating. You know, we won. We won.
Detroit also had the possession, and all they had to do was keep the ball when Isaiah made the costliest turnover of his career.
I look over and I see the official holding the basketball. I run over and I panic.
Thomas wants to get it in quickly. Does to Lambeer. Stolen by Bird and the cut to DJ. Yes! Yes, and a foul!
What a mistake by Detroit. They should have called.
No way.
Bird comes out of nowhere. I mean, it was like a streak of lightning.
1 second left.
No.
Steals it and gets it to Johnson at the buzzer.
Man, that shit had to hurt, bro.
In Game 6, the Celtics played without the suspended Robert Parrish because he was tired of Lambeer and threw a punch.
He can't get it to fall, and Parrish
Holy shit.
to the ground with a right forearm.
Despite the punch bringing smiles to the Boston crowd, the Celtics missed Parrish badly, and Detroit would win Game 6 to extend the series. And then, in the deciding Game 7, Bird pushed the Celtics to another close victory and another finals appearance, despite Detroit averaging 4 more points than Boston in that series. But because they were so close, the Pistons entered the 1988 season hungrier and more dangerous than ever. Under Daly's direction, the Pistons adopted a philosophy of 94 feet defense. The idea was that the team would defend everywhere on the court, making
Whoa.
it difficult for opponents to
Bro, they were
stop.
always eager to
Up
fight,
until that
huh?
time, most NBA teams ran back on defense and allowed the offensive team to cross half court unbothered. It was basically a gentleman's agreement, but the Pistons didn't care. Their whole strategy was to pressure, bump, and agitate, unlike any other team ever had. As a result, they soon became the most disliked team in the NBA.
Not only did we want to dominate you physically, but we wanted to crush you mentally. We wanted the fans to feel defeat.
The story
God
of this game,
damn.
Detroit defense. Yeah, defense did it
Imagine,
tonight.
bro, imagine Ben Wallace was in this era as well, bro.
But them to be afraid of us because we were getting ready to destroy their team.
While Detroit didn't lead the NBA in technicals and was actually ranked 15th out of 23 teams in total fouls, meaning that they fouled less than average, the Pistons
Damn.
probably led the league in hip checks, forearms to the ribs, cheap shots to the groin, shoving players midair, and fouls after the whistle. But the main reason why the Pistons were considered dirty was because of Bill Lambeer, who continually put his feet in the player's landing area after a jump shot, trying to injure the
Whoa.
Yeah, I stepped on his foot, but I stepped on high and twisted my ankle.
which made him arguably the most hated player in NBA history. However, the Pistons weren't bothered by what others were saying because their plan was working. Detroit won a franchise record 54 games, and they averaged 25,000 people in the stands, which again led the NBA. And thanks to 94 feet pressure and more minutes for Rodman, they had the second best defense in the NBA. And after Detroit beat the Bullets and then gave Jordan his first playoff whooping in the second round, round, it was
Damn.
time for another showdown with Boston. The Celtics made the finals 4 years in a row at that point, and despite their core getting older, they were still the favorites against Detroit. So, before the games in Boston, knowing how much they hated him, Lambier would be the first Piston to go out on the floor. He'd walk
Didn't
up
Larry
to the
Bird have the
leprechaun
back problem
logo
in
on
this
the
time
center,
too?
spit on it, and smear his spit with his sneakers, which brought the arena to the brink of madness. But this time, the Celtics
Wait,
could
what?
do up to the leprechaun logo on the center, spit on it, and smear his spit with his sneakers, which
Holy
brought the
shit.
arena to the brink of madness. But this time, the Celtics could do nothing to punish those provocations, as the Pistons finally managed to beat Boston in 6 games.
The Pistons are on their way to the NBA Finals.
In their
Damn.
first NBA Finals, Detroit played the Lakers, another 80s dynasty, led by 2 legendary superstars. But again, against the Vegas odds, the Pistons were leading 3-2. But then, a disaster. Isaiah Thomas stepped on Michael Cooper's foot and severely sprained his ankle. It looked
Yo,
like
he got
history.
pushed as
Isaiah
well.
Thomas stepped on Michael Cooper's foot
Oh
and
my
severely
gosh.
sprained his ankle. It looked like his season was over.
Isaiah Thomas is hurt, and I couldn't tell what happened.
Isaiah started to get up. He got up and then went down on the floor.
Damn.
Come on, Isaiah, take it over, baby.
And then, despite being unable to stand on one leg, Thomas produced one of the craziest performances in NBA history.
He shuts his eyes, locks into whatever zone he got into, and said, okay, I can do this.
And then something happened that I can't even describe.
Bro, the basketball god take possession of his body, bro.
Like some one-legged bunny, Isaiah miraculously kept playing, hopping on one leg. And not only did he play, he dominated. Thomas scored 25 points in the 3rd quarter alone and finished the game with 43 points and 8
Holy
assists. He
fuck.
kept the Pistons afloat the entire game. And with half a minute to go, Detroit was up by 1. The Lakers decided to go with the safest bet and give the last shot to Kareem to try to win the game with his trademark skyhook. But as Kareem was attempting the shot, the refs called the foul on Bill Lambier, who barely touched Abdul-Jabbar.
I mean, it wasn't even a foul. I mean, it's not even close to being a foul.
Even though he didn't push Kareem that time, he got the call because he had pushed 2,000 guys before.
To make things worse, Kareem also traveled before the act of shooting. But there were no coaches' challenges
Come
in
on,
the
man.
80s, and Jabbar was sent to the line. Of course, Kareem made both free throws, and the Lakers had the lead. After Dumars missed the layup on the other end, Los Angeles survived and forced a Game 7. In the deciding Game 7, the Pistons again had a chance to win, but Rodman stupidly ruined a fast break in the final minute that would cut the Lakers' lead to 1, and the Pistons ended up losing the championship once again.
Man.
For years, Detroit was saying they were robbed of a championship because of that phantom foul on Kareem. But the truth is that wrong calls always happen. They had their chance to win the title in the next possession, but they missed it, and they shouldn't blame their loss on the refs. After the NBA Finals, the NBA video department issued a VHS cassette with highlights for each team, like they did every year back then. And someone in the NBA named the 1988 Pistons videotape The Bad Boys. When Isaiah Thomas heard what the NBA had titled the team video and was asked about it, he wasn't offended. Isaiah just gave the reporters his trademark smirk and said,
We the bad boys.
Soon enough, the whole team embraced this nickname because now they had an excuse for their brand of basketball, and they did everything they could to live up to their name.
I think they
The
won after
franchise
that, no?
started selling bad boy merchandise, and if you thought the Pistons were dirty and physical before 1988, they were even worse in 1989. But again, this style of basketball worked wonders for the Pistons, who won a franchise record 63 games in the regular season and were eager to kick everybody's butt in the playoffs. First, they swept the Celtics and the Bucks in the first 2 rounds, and then came Michael Jordan and his Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals. Because Jordan was by far the best player in the NBA, Chuck Daly knew that if they wanted to win, they had to put all their effort into stopping MJ. So, Daly invented the Jordan Rules, a set of guidelines on how to guard Michael and stop him any way they could, legally or illegally. If Michael was at the point, we forced him left and doubled him. If he was on the left wing, we immediately went to a double team from the top.
Damn.
If he was in the paint, we doubled with a big guy. The
That's
other
all you
rule
knew was a problem,
anytime
bro.
he went by you, you had to nail him. We didn't want to be dirty. I know some people thought we were, but we had to make contact and be very physical. Chuck Daly. Or, as Dennis Rodman had eloquently put it, if you can't beat him, beat him. By the end of the series, Jordan had more bruises than ever and couldn't match the Pistons' cumulative aggressiveness. Detroit won the series in 6 games and secured another
Damn.
finals clash with the Lakers. And in the finals, Lady Luck shined for Detroit. After Byron Scott got injured in Game 1, the Lakers also lost Magic Johnson in Game 3. And with Kareem being 41 years old, the Lakers didn't stand a chance. The Pistons swept them in the finals and, for the first time ever, became the NBA champion.
The 1989 finals are history. Hail the new champions, the Detroit Pistons.
We beat them.
Everybody calls us the bad boys. I call ourselves world champions.
In 1990, due to the expansion draft, the Pistons couldn't keep Rick Mahorn. That only meant more minutes for Rodman, who won his first Defensive Player of the Year award. The Pistons again topped the Eastern Conference with 59 wins. And in the playoffs, they once again gave Jordan a beating to reach their third consecutive NBA Finals. This time they played the Blazers, and almost every game in the finals was close. But because of their experience and tenacity, the Pistons edged out the Blazers in the clutch, winning the championship in 5 games.
Damn.
Can't touch this.
The almost unchanged team entered the 1991 season with the sole aim of winning the third consecutive title. Just 50 wins in the regular season brought them a slightly more difficult path in the playoffs. But going through the Hawks and the Celtics, the Pistons reached their third consecutive matchup against the Bulls. But this time, Jordan and the Bulls were ready for the Pistons' aggression and cheap fouls. They were younger, hungrier, and better, sweeping Detroit 4-0 and announcing the start of their dynasty. Before the final game was over, Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons left the bench and walked past the Bulls in silence, not shaking the winner's hand.
Oh yeah, that's when the Michael Jordan took it personal.
Champions usually do the right thing. These guys conducted themselves like street yard bullies.
Their walk-off was considered gangster in the state of Michigan, but was universally hated everywhere else. It was also symbolic because it was the beginning of the end of the Bad Boys.
You're up on top. Eventually, you're going to go down. But they were great soldiers.
In 1992, the Pistons lost in the first round. And in 93, they didn't even make the playoffs. Rodman left the team after that season. And in 1994, Isaiah suffered a career-ending Achilles injury, retiring together with Bill Laimbeer. And just like that, the Bad Boys era was over.
This was the Bad Boys. There can only be one Bad Boy basketball team. And this was it, and there'll never be another one.
The Pistons had enough talent to win without any tricks or dirty antics. But they didn't want that, and that's what's so great about them. Because every hero needs a villain, and no one in NBA history played that role better than the Bad Boys. And if you like this video and you love the next one, click on the video